Welcome to our Meet the Experts Film Writers panel. I'm Gold Derby editor Daniel Montgomery here with David Kajganich from Bones and All, Lena Dunham from Called Birdy, Krysty Wilson-Cairns from The Good Nurse, and Julia Cho from Turning Red. I've talked with you all individually about your films. They're all incredibly different from each other, but I think pulling out a little bit to the writing process in general, what are your favorite parts of being a writer, and some of your least favorite parts of kind of the process of it? Let's start with Julia.
I was thinking how my favorite parts are my least favorite parts simultaneously. I feel like my favorite part is when I'm alone and I'm in my pajamas and it's 4 a.m. No one else is up and it's really quiet and I get to just immerse myself in my imagination. And then I feel like conversely, those are also my least favorite moments when I'm alone, everyone else is asleep, and I have to come up with some, incredible idea on the spot. So I think it's both a great gift and sometimes also a great fear all at the same time.
Well, I think Julia, what she described about 4 a.m, immerse your own imagination, wearing your pajamas, it sounds extremely familiar to me. And I would say that it is I love the great, incredible highs that come with feeling like you get to enter another world, and the feeling of problem solving that feels almost miraculous. I think that the challenges are when you start to feel like you're butting up against the limits of your own imagination, and you feel these kinds of dark nights of the soul of will I ever nail this? Will it ever come to me? The kind of dread of what if I can't take this story over the finish line? And I think we all have those moments. I mean, listening to Krysty talk about pursuing this story for such a long time with everyone on this call has doggedly pursued this kind of white whale that was just finding clarity and truth in this story. And that comes with some enormous highs and that comes with some incredible lows.
Krysty?
I mean, I completely agree. There is always the sort of dark night of the soul, and it's usually dark and at night. I find there's something really incredible in that. And don't get me wrong, there's a 45-minute window where I'm usually just weeping in a bathroom. But after that, I'm oh, I don't write novels. I write and I have collaborators and I get to phone these people that I love and respect and who are working on this film or who just work in film in general. And I think that to me is the really kind of lovely thing about screenwriting is you're not trying to write an end product. You're trying to create a blueprint that other people can come into. So I both love and hate the act of working with other people.
David?
That I feel like my job is empathy. That is what we do for a living, or if we're doing it sort of at an intentional enough humane level, that's what a joy to be able to sort of think and imagine your way into the psychological and emotional and spiritual lives of people who aren't you, who are nothing like you. And it dovetails with my other favorite part of this job, which is the research. I love sort of building an understanding of someone else's time period or, sort of professional world or familial relationships. So to me, that's it. I feel like this job makes me a better person because it puts me in the way of better people so often.
And, all of you, writing for the screen, actors are always going to be embodying your words. Do you, more or less write with actors in mind? Do you have always a dream cast in mind, or do you kind of let that sort itself out in a casting process after the fact? Krysty?
I think I never really, when I pick up the pen, I say pick up the pen, open the laptop. I never actually think right away, unless I've been told by the director, this is who this is for. I know what it's like writing for Andrew Scott, for instance, you just go, yes. I always feel that there's a pass where I'm kind of all the people in the script, which I understand sounds insane. And then, but that's how I kind of link into the empathy of each of them, of their kind of their motivations. And then when I refine it and I start working, it starts coming out with me. I love working with the actors. I love actually letting them into the script and talking it through with them and changing it, because like I say, like I made it up in my pajamas. Like I can't have got it right. So working with them is such a joy.
David?
I agree with that 100%. And I don't know why there aren't more alliances between writers and actors in our business, because I feel like the work we do is very similar in a way that maybe other people on a set don't have to do it, even the director. But I feel like the conversations I've been able to have with actors are I mean, useful is the word I was going to say, but it's much more profound than that. I mean, they're so illuminating and they really can change the course of a story. But I tend to, unless there's an actor cast, I tend not to think of actors because I think that's ultimately going to be unfair to whichever actors are actually cast. I don't want to code someone else's actual nervous system or way of performing into the writing.
Lena?
Well, I've been lucky enough to have some great long-standing relationships with actors where I feel close enough to them that I feel like I can potentially write a first draft and share it with them in mind and share it with them, and they'll understand. Just as I said that, my dog started to scream. So it's really putting the noises outside your window to shame. I promise he's fine. He just has an attitude about the cat next door. But I will say I've been lucky enough to have that experience, but often I'll think about actors, but they won't necessarily be actors who I think are going to do it. It will be as like absurd as this is Marlon Brando. Like it becomes an archetype for me. And then I think about who is a modern equivalent that might fill that archetype, or I become really surprised on someone who runs completely counter to that archetype, steps in. And then as both David and Krysty have said, the experience of having those conversations with actors and letting them tell me what thing I always say when we're rehearsing is I'm like, tell me if anything feels wrong in your mouth, which sounds slightly wrong in and of itself. But I always say, tell me if something feels wrong in your mouth, because I never want someone saying something that they don't feel that they can deliver honestly, just like I don't want to be writing something that I don't feel like is honest. And so there's really no line I'm so precious about that I can't imagine an actor tromping on it and us replacing it with something else.
Well, I think that for us, like the process is really iterative at Pixar and with animated movies, where you actually have a large part of your time where you're working with scratch performances, because you're just working with like sort of stand-in people. So it's really different, right? Because you just have like people who are not the voice, but just like doing enough so you can, sort of get a sense of it. So early on, you're sort of kind of have no attachment to the voice and the visual acting. And unlike, I think, live action or drama, or theater, where the actor's embodying it with their face and their body, you have actually that kind of acting being taken over by the animators. And so you just have voice. So it's almost like being more like an orchestral, like almost a composer, because you're trying to only isolate it to what you're hearing and who can embody like that, the voice that you want to hear. So for us going into it, I always suspected Sandra would be great at it. I mean, I just knew, but I knew it wasn't my call. And I think that I was really moving forward. So it was Sandra who ended up, being in the movie, playing me. And I think that my experience in theater and having worked with her before, then I didn't steer it towards her, but I just knew every time we were working on the script, I knew she can do that. Oh, she can do that. I could just sort of like kind of keep in the back of my head. And then when it finally came to casting and, they loved her and wanted her, then it was like, I could just know that we would be in really good hands. And so we had been working with scratch actors, and then we've been working with Rosalie, who's amazing and is the main character. And she was actually one of our scratch actors who we just brought on in the interim, but then she just grew into the part. And then by the time it came to cast it, we were like, I think it's just her, which is so rare. And so then she came in and was wonderful. But then at that point, I was like, we've been working with Rosalie, she's great. And now they're going to have like this fully trained, experienced actor step into it. And I was like, it's going to be fireworks. It's going to be awesome. And it was. So there was a lot of fun with the casting, just because it was like, we got to really just blue sky who we wanted. And then it just worked out just really beautifully.
And the four of your films represent, such different genres of storytelling. Is there a genre in particular that you've never gotten to work in that you would love a chance to kind of, try out, whether it's like sci-fi or romantic comedy or Marvel or, something that, would be new to you, Lena?
Well, I've been getting to recently try my hand at a project that exists a little bit more in the fantasy realm, which is not, I read a lot of fantasy books as a kid, but then sort of grew up into the cold hard light of reality. And so it's been really exciting to have to really try. I feel like when you're writing something that exists outside of the kind of rules and structures of our day-to-day life, you have to get even more focused on plot and structure and character in order to sell this alternate world, which is something that I think that David did so brilliantly in Bones and All, and something that you did so brilliantly in Turning Red as well. And I think that's been a really exciting exercise for me as a writer. And it's not necessarily a genre that I ever sort of dreamed of tapping into, but now that I'm doing it, I can just feel my child self just prickling up with joy.
David?
Because I'm sort of addicted to anxiety, I would love to do a musical, because I don't like going to see musicals. They make me uncomfortable. I get creeped out. So to me, like writing actually a sincere, earnest musical would shake me so much that I think it would probably do me a load of good.
Julia?
That's such a great question. I guess I hadn't really thought to ask myself. I almost feel like I'm still in a place like, what will they let me do? Like what genre will I be allowed into? And I think if I actually could blue sky, it goes back to something David was talking about, where you're talking about like visual grammars or like genre as grammar. And I think what I love is the idea of bringing my perspective to all the grammars that don't have that perspective yet. So for me, it's about the combination of grammars that is so exciting. Like when you can take, a horror genre and combine it with a coming of age or a medieval, or, it's like those things, the serial killer drama with a different take. It's like, so I think that for me, it's like, I don't know if I could do horror, because I find I get scared so easily. So I don't know if I could bear it, but I do think there's something so exciting about taking all these genres that we're so familiar with and then just colliding with them, in a different way. And so I think that to me is what's exciting. And whatever I get to do next, I hope to, just keep finding myself in places I never expected to be.
I mean, I suppose for me, I would love to do like a massive epic, when you see these kind of like, like the 50s Hollywood movies that just ran for like 25 years. And I think not necessarily concentrating on the genre, but just the scale, the size of it, and making 1917 was such a beautiful, collaborative, like incredible process. And I love that I kind of can go out there and I can push projects forward, but I think I probably will never get to do a big, giant, massively, hugely expensive Hollywood epic. So I might as well say that.
Yes, you.
I wouldn't be so sure.
That's happening.
Yeah, never say never. I can very much see that in your future and anyone's future here. I think all of your work is really outstanding, and it was a pleasure to talk to all of you about it and to have all of you talk to each other. As you mentioned,
I think we should reconvene every week. I'm not kidding.
Standing tall.
Hi, I'm Krysty and I'm a screenwriter. Just want to
I'll join you in that.
Just institute a nice new writer's salon. That would be really great.
That's exactly right. Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
thank
thanks.
you. It's such
It's been my pleasure.
Joy.
Lovely to meet you all. Lovely to spend time with you. Thank you.